Well, good morning to everybody. Welcome, friends and colleagues. We will begin right now with this wonderful space to share about women, water, and working animals towards intersectoral locally owned solutions, which is an official side event of the UN World Conference for Water. I would like to begin by thanking the Donkey Sanctuary, SPANA, World Horse Welfare, and the Brooke for opening this scenario for us to share in, for us to meet the speakers, for sharing their knowledge and their experiences, and of course, all our participants for whom this effort is taking place. My name is Lorena Barrantes. Please feel free to call me Lorena. I am a regional coordinator for the World Horse Welfare. I see Colombia, Honduras, and Costa Rica. And of course, it's an honor for me to be here this morning. And I'm at your service at all moments. I will begin by just reminding you of some technical aspects that we consider important for you to know. We're going to begin by saying that there's a translation service, English and French. So be sure that you are on the correct channel for whatever preference you might have. And that is in the toolbar of Zoom. Okay. The event will last an hour, hopefully. We have 5 speakers today. We will begin with a little introduction, then the 5 speakers, then we have an open space for discussion. Questions from the audience will be part of that 20-minute space. You participants are muted by default, so you can use the correct spaces to make your questions. Would be the Q&A that you have in the toolbar as well. And the event is being recorded and it will be sent to you with a summary after the event is over. So going down to business now, as an introduction, there are 2 types of necessary things: those that we cannot live without and those that we shouldn't live without. Precisely like women, water, and working animals. Life without women and water would just not be possible, right? For those women, life would be way more daring without those working animals by their side. So all 3 are fundamental for millions of families around the world. In order to prompt access to these thousands of people and their livelihoods, we must center on intersectoral alliances for development. It's very important to remember to work together. Working together is the only way to face the current challenges and leave no one behind, like the SDGs have clearly told us since day 1. Locally owned solutions exist, and they can contribute to all this development in many ways. To achieve the aims under the Water Action Agenda, local ownership can make solutions sustainable on the long run. It needs to be done by the people that need the aid. Since women are key actors as drivers and owners of local solutions, today's case studies will focus on their roles. Hopefully the speakers will be referring to that topic, no matter what the topic it is that they're bringing to us. So with no further introduction, I am pleased and happy and honored to give the floor to Valentina Riva, who is currently the chair for ICWE and the head of external affairs of Brooke. Valentina, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Lorena, for introducing me and opening our event. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending where you are in the world. It's actually splendid to see such a large group of people attending our event during this UN Water Conference. So as Lorena said, 3 things: women, water, and working animals. So if we start with water, so water is a vital resource for life. Yesterday, the world celebrated Water Day and marked the beginning of this UN Water Conference, the first one since 1977, during which a variety of stakeholders are gathered to discuss how to tackle issues to solve the current water crisis. So several of the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, and in particular SDG 6, as we're discussing today, can be achieved by cost-effective and simple solutions that benefit some of the poorest people in society. So we're here today to bring, as Lorena said, a different perspective to the table, the welfare of working animals. So first of all, what are working animals? So working animals are animals utilized by people to perform specific activities rather than being farmed or bred for human consumption. So today, our focus on working equids, as in horses, donkeys and mules, our event being organized by ICWE, International Coalition for Working Equids. An estimated 100 million working equids are essential to the livelihoods of some of the poorest community around the world. They are a critical asset to their people because they both directly and indirectly support income generation in various sectors. To give an example, in rural areas, they facilitate farming and transportation, they pull carts, deliver goods to market, they herd livestock, and they collect water. In urban areas, they are utilized in construction, the transport of people and goods, and waste management. They therefore enable their people to participate in work, and they provide access to crucial services such as healthcare and education. They also increase community resilience in the face of environmental-related crises and disasters by enabling communities to collect water and food from greater distances, by helping families to relocate, and even rebuilding infrastructure. Yet, their social and economic value is very frequently taken for granted, overlooking the long-term benefits of better health and welfare for these animals. So before I quoted figures by saying that there are about 100 million working equids supporting communities around the world, but accurate population data is lacking. And this gap means that governments and organizations cannot identify worrying trends to equine populations such as diseases and illegal trafficking. So the ICWE Coalition today is taking part in such an important event with their own event to showcase the crucial role working equids play in delivering sustainable solutions for the global water agenda specifically. In particular, again, as Lorena introduced, we wish to emphasize the similarities between the experience of working equids and women, because they're both significant contributors to livelihood and community productivity, but yet they're both absent from policy development processes. So we talked about solutions. So simple interventions can empower people to keep their working animals healthy. So community development programs, we know, improve access to vet care, and they increase overall awareness of animal health and welfare. Strengthening general animal health system through training and capacity building and investment can also support the animals on which so many communities around the world depend. But especially expansions of current policy and legislation and implementing welfare standards would enhance the recognition and therefore the protection of these animals. So ICWE's objectives in general is to raise awareness of the extent and the variety of their role and ensure the integration of specific provisions regarding animal health and welfare in policies for rural, social development, climate adaptation and mitigation, in this case, water related. So yesterday I attended an event during which the ambassador of the Netherlands reported that women and girls spend up to 200 million hours per day to collect water. She also highlighted the fact that during the time they spend walking, a number of human rights are violated. So collection time, to give an example, is half, and the quantity of water collected is tripled if the working animals are in the picture, healthy working animals are in the picture. So there are several events taking place during this conference here in New York. They're all discussing how to mobilize funds to tackle water-related challenges and how to catalyze finances. Well, in this case, the welfare of working animals is an investment, is not a cost. So working animals are part of the global solution. So looking after working animals means looking after the millions animal-dependent communities around the world. I'm going to stop talking now and ask my colleague to show a video illustrating what I briefly outlined regarding how working animals deliver for sustainable development. And then I'll leave the floor to the other excellent speakers that have joined me today. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mwende. I live in Kenya with my husband, 4 children, and my donkey Nuru. My donkey is an important part of my family because it helps me with my daily chores, like collecting water for my family to drink and wash. My children are also able to go to school because they don't have to help carry the water. My donkey eases the burden of plowing the field for crops and taking those crops to the market to sell. This pays for daily essentials including school fees and medical care. Having a donkey means I have more time. I can go to the community meetings and I'm respected as a breadwinner for my family. Around the world, working horses, donkeys, and mules like Nuru contribute to the livelihoods of 600 million people in the poorest communities. Yet their vital contributions to meeting many sustainable development goals is largely overlooked. Working livestock are an important part of my daily life that need to be recognized. By working together, organizations that focus on human development, animal welfare, and environment can help meet the sustainable development goals by 2030.
Thank you. Lorena, to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Valentina. Very important, all those pinpoints that you mentioned, which we will be discussing further into our session. For the moment, I would like to introduce our second speaker today, who is the Regional Chair for Global Water Partnership in South Asia and also Chair for Net Water and Steering Committee member of Women for Water Partnership. She joins us from Sri Lanka, Kusum Atukorala. I hope I got that right. Kusum will be talking to us about relationship between water, women, and working animals. Kusum, you may start now. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you and good evening. I'm a little concerned that I am not coming from a country which has working animals. We don't have donkeys, we don't have horses. The closest to a donkey is this one over here. So, but I'd like to use a little bit of my time to highlight the little donkey population which is left behind. Can we go on to the next screen, please? Where I'm talking about this invisible problem of the donkeys of Kalpitia brought by the Arab and Dutch traders for carrying salt. Now, no longer do they need to have the donkeys, but these donkeys have been, roaming this particular place in Kalpitia, which is a tourist paradise. But they are nobody owns them. They are catchments. Their grazing grounds are being habitually encroached on. The fencing hurts them, they are damaged. Illicit slaughterhouses and the infamous donkey skin trade seems to be eating into their numbers. And nobody seems to have visited them except Donkey Sanctuary from India coming there once. That is all that I can think of. But I think this is an invisible, underutilized resource. As you can see, now they are getting knocked down by vehicles, traipsing into cemeteries, into classrooms, and eating garbage. But this is, for me, if the women of Kalpitia are carrying water and walking long hours, they have problems. So this is the kind of, I think, scenario which we may be looking at in other places, not this is an isolated issue anyway. But maybe we need a locally owned, locally grown solution. Trying to get the problem of the women's and the donkeys as a solution together. Next, please. Yeah. So what is the connection between women, water, and working animals? When I first came onto this this network, I couldn't work it out either. But when I work around India, South Asia, I can see a lot of women carrying, holding a string with a string of donkeys, 10 donkeys carrying bricks. So that was my first introduction to animals being used as transportation, because we don't have this in our country. So we use my animals as draft animals. We use them for farm, again in South Asia, but not in Sri Lanka. And I found that, you know, they provide not only the dung, which is used for fuel, but milk and cheese. And apparently the most expensive donkey milk is in India. So what happens when you have an animal which gives you these byproducts? It is a livelihood for the women, and most important, that is a little bit of money that she can put aside for education of the children. So we support education, we support the SDGs by giving a woman animal which will be, generate income for her. I mean, there are also other issues that we have seen, such as the donkey milk being used for beauty products. And we all know that Cleopatra bathed in asses milk, and that's why she was so beautiful. So it is not an investment, which is, I think, invisible. Because this invisible investment could be tradable. It could have a higher economic value. It could be something which can generate income which will keep the family going, and most important, the education for the children. All around South Asia, it is the education for the children which is the mother's primary concern. This is something which could help. But what happens when you have livestock, donkeys mostly, but also other animals which are affected by climate change? When you are affected by climate change as a rural woman, depending on the donkeys, loss of grazing ground automatically leads to urban migration. You lose the animal. We see this now very much in Africa, and we lose the people. The rural sector also loses its entire population. More and more, we are witnessing extreme weather events such as the Pakistan floods. I forget the number of animals which were lost in the Pakistan flood, but it was, every one of them is not only an animal, it is an investment for a woman, it is an investment for a family, which is then lost. More and more we see the poaching, due to the donkey skins being used in traditional Chinese medication. In 2015, there was a count of 425 of these Kalpitiya donkeys. Now I believe they are down to 100 or more. So that is something that I think every country needs to look at. And the next would be, there's no access to veterinary skills, people with veterinary skills in these remote areas. Donkeys fall ill and there's nobody to treat them. Next, please. So we need to have resilience building for women who are livestock keepers in coping with extreme events as floods. We could train these women as barefoot veterinarians to identify disease and to carry out basic treatments. And the climate change adaptation support that we are all looking for, the climate finance that the entire developing world is looking for, has to be used for improving grazing. Women and youth, I believe, are the catalyst, climate catalyst, but they can also take forward this message of adaptability of communities using horses and donkeys. If we have climate finance, which we can start up, use our as a startup for home-based products, and then upscale it into value-added products, which can maybe have a better market. And everyone, I think, of these programs which are supporting the donkeys, I think should be planned from day one with a gender component, so that we are not looking only at as the women, but we are also looking at the women and the donkeys together. So next please.
Kusum,
Yeah,
there you go. We have a second to say goodbye. Sorry.
Integrated action is what we need in these climate stress times. And we have to not support women separately and working animals separately, but bring the two together and make it an activity which supports both women and animals. Thank you.
Thank you, Kusum. I wish we had a week to discuss and hear and learn from you. So thank you very much for your intervention. Beautiful and important. Next, I am very pleased to introduce Isidore Della, who is the National Director of INADES Formation. I guess that would be the pronunciation, from Burkina Faso. Isidore will be presenting in French, so it's important to look for the correct channel for translation. He will be sharing with us about collaboration between animal welfare, human development, and local communities for water provision. Isidore, go ahead.
Okay. Merci bien. Bonsoir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, one and all. I'm going to share with you the project we have implemented. Am I the one sharing or someone else is sharing? Who should share?
Please, can Isidore share his screen if he can?
Isidore, tu peux partager toi-même.
OK.
Ça va, merci.
C'est bon?
C'est bon.
Is it okay? Thank you very much. So let me share with you this evening the results on the project to improve access to drinking water in the northern central region in Burkina Faso. This project is implemented by INADES Formation Burkina, thanks to the collaboration between INADES Formation and Brooke as part of capacity building and livelihood with animal welfare component. So as part of the project, we noticed that stakeholders in villages have issues with accessing drinking water. So we targeted a village in Karantenga, which is very difficult when it comes to water access during the rainy season. And then we also noticed that not only animals, women have to go long distances to have drinking water. Even in the dry season, women and men are idle as they don't have much to do. That's why we discussed with the community and see what we could do together and collaborate on the project. So in designing the project, we involved authorities in that community. So the community that the village is part of, we also worked and involved actively women and young ones. So with customer authorities, we were able to sign some papers on the land so that when the borehole would be built, there won't be any land-related issues that would arise. In terms of goal, the idea is to contribute to the improvement of the income of the women's market gardening group through a better management of water resources for a sustainable market gardening production. So we wanted also to build access to a management of water resources for vegetable production and equine watering, and strengthen the capacities of women's market gardening group on sustainable production practices, and improve the income of the women's market gardening group. So concretely, what have we done? You can see the image below in these slides. We were able to build borehole equipped with a solar pump, a water tank, and a drinking trough for those animals, so that the Working Equids to drink. And you can see also some materials and seedlings that we provided to the community, so that they could be able to till the land and carry on their gardening. So when you see the land, you can see it's really an arid land, and they needed some materials to be able to do the market gardening. Then we put in place an irrigation system, a drip system, because it's a community that really lacked water. So we wanted this borehole to be useful for gardening and for the feeding of the community, and also for feeding equine animals. So that's why we put in place this system of irrigation to manage water and avoid waste. And this site was developed with the support of women and all the young ones in the community. So we provided tools.
Thanks to
and
this, they were able to mobilize in order
this 1
to
hectare site was developed.
plan for this 1 hectare field. Here you can see the storage that we've built in order to keep their products, which will be produced on these fields. So these storage material that were adapted for their specific products. Thanks to this borehole, we were also able to train them on agroecological practices which are adapted to their needs. On the left, you see how they make bokashi, which is a fertilizer which allows them to produce healthy and sustainable produce, all the while protecting the ecosystem. We also train them on the boreholes management, as well as for the fields management, in order to sustain these infrastructure on the long term. Finally, we also train them how to transform these produce. As you might know, these are fresh produce, meaning that sometimes conservation can be problematic despite the equipment we provided them with. So we have trained them on these produce. Here, the second picture for the garden products are tomatoes, transformed tomato paste, and on the right you'll see onions that they have dried in order to preserve them on a longer period. So this is what we were able to provide this community with in terms of activities. Now looking at results.
Disponibilité, tu peux bien le dire aujourd'hui, d'une eau potable.
I can say today that we have provided them with drinkable water. You can see it on the right. This is a community of about 5,000 inhabitants, and we know that hygiene conditions have been improved thanks to our project. Other results pertain to the empowerment of these women, because now these women can gather around this borehole in order to practice their gardening, and it really improves social cohesion in the village. As another result, we also increased the availability of produce, such as tomatoes and onions. And that means that these women also improve their living conditions as well as their revenue. So this is what I wanted to share with you all about this borehole in the village of Karentenga. And of course, this borehole contributes to their resilience and the attainment of SDG 6. So this, in a nutshell, this is a summary of a story. This woman is telling her story as to the borehole's presence in their village. Thank you.
Very nice to see such an important project that brings life to people and animals. Thank you very much for your beautiful intervention. And now it's moment to introduce Johnson Limo from Tanzania, who is the founder and executive director of Meru Animal Welfare Organization, and is also a member of the advisory committee for the Coalition for African Animal Welfare Organizations. He will be sharing with us his ideas and his experiences of the links between water, communities, and animal welfare during COVID-19 pandemic. Please, Johnson, the floor is yours. It's a pleasure to have you here this morning, afternoon, or night.
Thank you so much, Lorena, for the introduction. Greeting everyone. As we have heard about the Equids as essential partner in the reducing the amount of time to require to access the water source and helping easy to physical demands of the water collections. The Meru Animal Welfare Organization works in Tanzania, protecting animals from cruelty by promoting and improving the developing and understanding of animal welfare. Today, I'll be taking you about the project we took place as a response of the COVID-19 pandemic and the importance we had at the community we support. During the next few minutes, I will be sharing the video so you can see the project in action. Donkey are crucial in helping our building relays in our area and during the pandemic. Local donkeys were the key to moving the large quantity of the water distant sources. As you remember that among the guidelines of the WHO is washing their hands all the times. In partnership with the donkey sanctuaries, we ran the project to support the community education around the good welfare practices in creation of the hand washing facilities, of local health cares, provisions, where we actually raising the awareness of we help the donkeys and donkey helping us during the pandemic. As you can see, the accessing of the water, most of the pastoral areas in the northern part of the Tanzania is difficult due to the length and the condition of the travel. Donkeys are the main support for the families to gain the water for both people and the livestock. With the pandemic, there was a higher demand for water, and therefore is higher demand for those who are working, for the donkey who are working as well. According to the Maasai culture, the donkey owners are the men, whilst the women are the ones who are carers and the users. Women are the champions carrying the donkeys alongside the holding the responsibility of the family health. Therefore, the supporting the importance of the relationship for the water access can be hugely beneficial. As you can see, how the women are going to fetch the water in the areas and bring it to the healthy centers for the people to wash their hands. By following the cross-sector approach, we are able to create the project to support the improvement of both human and animal welfare condition hand in hand. To start with, the MAO support the information for the local people, sharing how to reduce the transformation about the COVID via hand washing, the form of how to posters to display in the public spaces, on the vehicles, donkey carts, and also water troughs, where actually most of the donkey are getting the water, and most of the water points where we put on the big tankies. We support the radio programs that including the question and answer session where we try to talk to the local communities by using the local language, the Maasai language, about COVID. Finally, we installed the hand washing facilities in the 30 local clinics to assist in the hygiene during they're coming to visit for the doctors, which you will see it on the screen shortly. At the same time, we highlighted the community how the changing the demand of the water could affect their walking donkeys. We carried out the training to show how to do the harnessing, to make sure that it's helping them, to make sure that the donkeys, because they were working too much, they're not getting too much wounds, and also to use their single donkey cart, which was more efficient for their donkeys as well. And you can see that alongside how to check it for avoiding the wounds. We conducted focus group discussions targeting the pastoral, donkey champions. This is mostly at the women who are users of the donkeys, and selecting the community members to track the changes of donkey management and hygiene behaviors of the community at large. This is the people who are tracking it to make sure that the donkey is helping the people to fetch water, they're not getting wounds, they are using the proper harness, but also the people who are visiting the facilities like the hospitals, clinic, they're also getting the washing hands, and also they use it properly. By addressing the concerns such as human health and donkey welfare side by side, we reduce the potential for negative implication on the just one sector. I'm pleased to share with the result for the training community now, priority care of the welfare of the donkeys. As you know, most of the people, they were saying that during the Second World War, the donkey helped a lot of the people, but during this pandemic, a lot of the donkeys are helping a lot of the people to secure their life through the hygiene purposely, by make sure that every house is getting the water from bringing them from miles to miles. Thank you for listening, and welcome for the question. And
thank you, Johnson. Another beautiful example, another reminder that we all work towards the same goals. Just as the SDGs have told us. Beautiful, beautiful example. Thank you very much. Now I have a craving for going to your country and visiting the program. Thank you very much. Well, finally, we have come to our last but not least speaker of today's space. And he visits us all the way from Ethiopia. Gebre Tefera is the community training officer of SPANA, and Gebre will present a case study of a water project from Ethiopia, right, Gebre?
Yeah.
So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you share my slide, please? Or may I try?
I can do it for you.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Gebre Tefera. I am community training coordinator in SPANA, Ethiopia. Today I want to share my experience of in the role of women and working animals in accessing water in Ethiopia. Next, please. Start the slide. Next. Rural communities have a little access to clean water, especially in the dry season in Ethiopia, because of the topography of the land and distance, and the distance also makes the access even harder. People must travel long distance to find water, and this responsibility for women and children in Ethiopia. Working animals are their only means for reducing the time and effort of collecting water. In rural area, women and children can spend almost half a day traveling to collect water using donkeys without access to veterinary care and education on animal welfare. The animal can suffer from wound, disease, and other ailments takes place. And healthy working animals are, critically important in ensuring access to clean water for many communities in Ethiopia. They reduce the burden and task placed on women and girls by reducing time and effort taken to collect water. Next, please. So working with CDI, that is Center for Development Initiative, we extend water pipeline and install tap and water trough in Umbre village for the people and for the animals. That is in Shashamane, southern Ethiopia. Educating owners on how to prevent injury and maintain their animals' healthy and welfare. Developing modified saddle frame that allow animals to carry water without injuries. This is also in highland of Ethiopia. It's around Shano. So collaborating with research to better understanding the link between women, working animal, and One Health. Next, please. So what we learned from this situation or case study is that healthy working animals allow people to access great quality and quantity of better quantity of water, reduce the time taken by women and girls to collect water. This help to generate more income for the family. So this in effect keep or maintain human health benefit, increase time for school or other activities or household chores for women, and more income generating. Next, please. So if the health of this animal is compromised, this may reduce the amount of water quality, the amount of water and quality of water source people can access. Women and girls may spend more time collecting water because they travel further and carry less water. Less water collected means it could be less water available to sell, and even they may have less water to have in home. Next, please. So programs should especially target women and their needs when working with water scarce households. Government also should consider the human working animal interface in policy legislation when providing a regulatory service, support. More research is needed on the link between water provision, women, and animal welfare to strengthen the evidence base for decision making. And also greater collaboration is needed between development and animal welfare sectors to devise the holistic approach to ensure safe access to water in area reliant on working animals. Next, please. So thank you very much. This is all my presentation. You are welcome for questions and comments.
Thank you. Another beautiful and important message that you shared with us, Gebre, today. So we have come to an end of our speakers. I would open now the space for discussion. I would like to introduce a small video that we will present on behalf of ICWE, which will highlight the role of working equids and water. So you can go on ahead with the video. Thank you, Gebre, again. Well, I don't know if it was only me that I'm highly emotional, but that was a quite moving video that shows us how important our work is and everything that we do every day to this populations in need. I would just like to go over some following common points that our speakers highlighted throughout their presentations, and then open the space for questions and discussions that I already have listed by Sandra. Thank you, Sandra, for being there behind the scenes. So you mentioned several important things that I'm going to try to summarize now. One is the importance of having healthy animals and its impact over the income of the households of these women in the different countries. Another one, which is actually what poverty really means, is the lack of access to health care, education, and transportation. Or on the other side, it's good and positive impact over those same issues. Valentina mentioned something very important, which is the minimum we can try to guarantee to ourselves as human beings, which is the vulneration of human rights. So we work and they work also. All these projects contribute to maintaining accessibility to those human rights and prevent people from violating them. Working animal solutions are definitely a part of all these communities' economical development. Vital for women and children. We're not only talking about women, because we know that the children depend on these women. So we're tackling these challenges for hundreds of millions of people. Shortened distances. The only mean they have is the working animals for guaranteeing their access to water. And something mentioned also very important was the importance of research to be responsible at the time of designing the projects that tackle these challenges. Sometimes we civil society organizations just go on ahead and work, right? And then we forget to do it properly, not what we think is what always works. So research is a very important tool to remember. So after having pinpointed those common points, I'm going to open now the space for questions and replies. I will begin with a common question. They are very similar. One was directed to Kusum and the other one was directed to Isidore, but it's basically the same question. So I'm opening the space to speakers to reply, either one of you, right? So it says, how do we ensure the relationships are mutually beneficial for animals as well as for humans? How might they be respected in and of themselves as equal partners in these relationships? So giving the space to the speakers. You cannot all answer at the same time.
If I can go first. Yeah, I think that how you give value to an animal really depends on the culture of that particular country. Now, you know, in countries which are, for instance, having Buddhist countries, one would say that, you know, you may think that, you know, an animal is a life and therefore you treat it with respect, you need to, but it doesn't always happen that way. So to me, I see that, you know, that more of the traditional values of many countries, especially in Asia, which valued animals and which looked after them and I would say gave them something like a member, treated them like a member of the family, has now been eroded quite a bit. Perhaps with what we call modernization, with development, and moving away from the use of the animals. The animal is devalued because you have a vehicle. Why do you need a vehicle? And then, of course, until your petrol runs out, you can run that vehicle. It is also to do with education, because if we have an education system which does not maintain, support these traditional values, at some point, the animal becomes a very disposable piece of maybe, even maybe to give it to the donkey slaughterers, the donkey skin collectors. It is not something that we can train. It is something which comes through the roots of our culture.
Thank you very much, Kusum. Here is a question to all the panelists. What are the panelists' key recommendations to policymakers to ensure both the welfare of animals and to move us closer to equality between women and men? Quite a question. Thank you, speakers. You have the floor for you.
I would say what I said before, investment. So this is women, animals, children. They are not a cost for society. They are investments. So from our perspective, this is what we should insist on. I can see there's another similar question in the chat. How can we support beyond spreading the word? Well, precisely like this. We should continue raising awareness of the issue, but then translate our words into action. So invest in the infrastructure that we have, and including animals, provisions for the health and welfare, including women. Obviously, I'm not a gender specialist, but Kusum is and other speakers are. This is the only way we can showcase that, again, we're part of the solution. Working animals are part of the solutions.
Thank you very much, Valentina. Now it says, donkey skin trade creates great problems in reducing the number of donkeys, where they contribute a great lot to livelihoods of rural people. So what will be the suggestion for the presenter coordinators? I guess to tackle this commerce of donkey skin. Isidore.
Merci beaucoup. En fait,
thank you very much. Indeed, as a recommendation, I think we should note that our authorities should be able to take strong measures to tackle donkey skin trade. As we have all said in our presentations, these animals, these working animals, present a very strong social capital for communities and households. And when they're being slaughtered en masse, it will greatly impact our communities and hinder their livelihoods. So our governments need to take strong measures with strong sanctions in order to dissuade those who practice donkey skin trade.
Thank you very much for your reply. Hold on, I'm just looking for the next question. What would the speakers suggest could be the most effective way to create change for women and working animals in relation to water access, infrastructure, policy knowledge, transfer, or cultural perception? Johnson, go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the good question. I think because most of the community, especially the women's, have been using these animals to bring as a means of a transportation, especially they use it for the purpose of the homeworks, like fetching water, finding firewood, going to the markets. And actually in the rural areas, this is the means, the really means of a transport. because they don't cost them much more than the welfare of the animals itself. So I think by this, and according to the infrastructure, some of the areas it's a rural area, they don't have a good road so that you can see the car can go there or what. It's still they need the animals. So I think the good enough it's actually to make sure that we raise the welfare of the animal at high level so that the community itself, they will continue appreciating it and continue using it at effective way and to make sure the welfare of the animal is at high level.
Thank you, Johnson. I really appreciate your intervention. This is a beautiful question because I think it's the first one we should always do, even if we're not experts in the area. For the ones of us that are not working closely with all of this amazing work and initiatives, how can we support beyond, or how can we support by spreading the word? So what could we tell someone that is not related to our field on how to support these nice initiatives and important initiatives?
I'd say spreading the word is paramount. Communication is paramount. I think all of us, all of our speakers and in the questions, we all mentioned the invisibility of both animals and women. So make them visible, talk about this, support us in different ways. Talk to competent authorities, locally, regionally, nationally, internationally. Do not stop the communication flow. That would be my first suggestion.
Thank you very much, Valentina. Highly appreciated. Kusum, you raised your hand. Go ahead.
Yes. As you can see in this board behind me, awareness, advocacy, and action is our mantra. Now, basically, I think that building awareness is something that you can do even if you do not own donkeys or work in a community which you can work, you see a donkey. But the other is, I think all the time my mind goes back to the main problem. The main problem is that the development sector is so bifurcated. It is so, we all work in silos. So it is extremely difficult for us to break that mentality, say, okay, I'm an equid expert, you're a gender expert, but we need to work together. We need to integrate our programs and our planning. That is, I think that is the first obstacle that we need to overcome.
Definitely, Kusum. We need to start working, and you're going to have to send us a copy of your board. Quite important, right? Well, it was a pleasure. Thank you again to Donkey Sanctuary, SPANA, World Horse Welfare, and the Brooke for hosting this space for all of us. Before we part, I just want us to remember one thing, that we might come from different places and speak in different tongues, but our hearts definitely beat as one, and our mission is a common one. So for the sake of our women, our water, our working animals, our world, and of all mankind, we need to go from the impossible to the unstoppable. I hope you have a great day. Thank you very much for being here. Speakers, thank you very much for sharing your knowledge. And participants, I hope, or we hope, that you become seeds that grow into big trees that carry this message so important for our future. Thank you very much on my behalf and on behalf of the 4 organizations. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Goodbye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.